Hi, you're listening to the AK Compass, guiding listeners through evolving ideas, directions. Your hosts are Carolina Zacco, communications and sustainability expert with 10 years living abroad and a love for traveling.
And Agnes Gardany, journalist who regularly covers many sustainability and travel-related topics.
In this podcast, we will discuss exciting destinations and social and environmental topics from all around the world, along with related non-political current affairs. Our goal is to provide informative and engaging interviews about travel, sustainability, and more.
We will bring you many people from different walks of life, sharing their stories from trips and living abroad. We also invite experts from all across the sustainability sector.
We would like to thank our sponsor, the Sweet Home Studio, for making this podcast possible. Their mission is to bring important social topics to Hungarian audiences. They also give new podcasters a great price to support more valuable content. They are based in Budapest, offering full technological support and a great space to make podcasts.
Carolina, you travel a lot. Today, let's talk about a less-known destination, which is considered to be a one-day trip, but it's actually not. You've been to Bratislava twice from Budapest. What were your experiences of the city on those trips?
Actually, before COVID, I traveled a lot more. And now, these days, I try to be more conscious about concentrating my days to have quality travels. And I also look at the timing. If I spend like more than a week somewhere, then I might fly. But in case of Bratislava, for me, it was ideal to go there for a weekend trip, a 4-day trip. We have these long weekends in relation to various holidays. And it seemed more convenient to not waste a whole day flying, but actually to take the train. And here in Budapest, we're quite lucky that you can leave from the city center and then go to Vienna, go to Bratislava. And I've been to Vienna twice before or 3 times before, but Bratislava was not really on my mental map to go there. And once I was like, okay, let's try, let's see how it goes. And actually, after Budapest and after knowing Vienna somewhat, it's very good. You just take a short train ride. It's 2.5 hours. You don't have to wait through a security line and go to the edge of the city. So that's very comfortable. And also, it's very walkable. It's easy to walk around the old town and the Danube. It's budget friendly. Actually, on my first trip, I used the Bratislava card, which includes various discounts and transportation. So you don't have to worry about what ticket is for what, because otherwise they sometimes have zones for various areas. So when you're new to Bratislava, I think it's good to go to these places. I also visited like the big ticket items in Bratislava, the Bratislava Castle, the Old Town, and the Castle of Devin on the first trip. And even taking the bus, which seems on the map to be far out, it's actually very close. The transportation is excellent. On my second trip, I went to Danubiana Museum, which is actually on a peninsula or an island. And there's also hydroelectric plants. So you get both a mixture of art and you get a mixture of technology as well.
You mentioned Vienna and Budapest. Compared to these two cities, how would you describe the atmosphere of Bratislava?
I think because Bratislava is more of a city for locals, I think it's also more relaxed. It's a small sibling to Budapest and Vienna. We obviously have shared history and shared architecture. So it feels like home. It doesn't really feel like I'm in a very different country. And I have the same feeling in Vienna. And also what I really like in Bratislava that doesn't really exist in Budapest is that the transportation, how trams, buses, cars, pedestrians, cyclists behave with each other is a lot more respectful. Even if they don't have lamps or the lamps are not functioning, nobody hurts anybody. I haven't seen any issues. And like one of their main squares has all of these, and yet there's no sense of conflict there. And I think that's something we should learn from. And then the other thing is that the historic core is extremely walkable. It's also gentler and it's very easy to relax when you can just go to various places and just walk and enjoy the atmosphere. And what I also really like is that the restaurants and the cafes, unlike in Hungary, they don't feel like tourist traps because locals also use them.
And how touristy is the city? How is it more like Király Street in Budapest, or is it like in the hills of Buda?
First, I thought that there would be one street that is touristy, but it turned out that it's not. Like the prices are normal. I usually like to go to a mix of local and touristy places just to see how things are going and what being a local feels like. But in Bratislava, it's not necessary. So basically, in Bratislava, they're very proud of their food. They actually have excellent food. They use sheep cheese and a different kind of pasta that has potatoes in it. They have amazing desserts. It's close but different from the Hungarian cuisine. And they're actually very creative. One of my favorite new discoveries was actually a restaurant that was converted from a theater from before. I've been to a bar that was a bank before in London. I also seen in China like a Russian church turned into a bar, but this was very unique, and they actually kept the basic structure of the theater. And it was great to see that locals were also standing in line, and they were also using that area and going to that restaurant. And so I really didn't really see any tourist traps in terms of restaurants. In shops, some clearly cater to tourists, souvenir shops or handmade shops, those are more touristy. But otherwise, everything else is normal. There are supermarkets, there are Slovaks everywhere, and that's great. And people there are calmer, actually.
What other places or locations in Bratislava have stayed with you the most? For example, places like the Danubiana Moerlenstein Art Museum, the Devon Castle, which you already mentioned, the cultural life, the cleanliness, or the nearby hydroelectric power plant, and why, if you could explain in a few words.
The Devon Castle stayed with me because there's a lot of history behind it, and also Danube is joined by another river, and you can really see that actually. So it was very exciting to stand on the castle like a princess and then see two important rivers converging. So that was very nice. It's also very clean and well kept, so you don't have the feeling like this had to be reconstructed from a war, because in Hungary, obviously, we have lots of locations that unfortunately had been affected by various conflicts, and this didn't happen there, or at least I had found no signs of it. The Nubiana Museum, I think it's fantastic because they're using a peninsula or an island that would otherwise be used for maybe less smart ideas. This museum has photos, paintings on the inside. They also have some multimedia arts, meaning it's not like digital media, but that they actually use different materials to create a picture. And on the outside, they actually have statues, so you have the opportunity to walk around. And it's a great place to make pictures, especially during sunset or during the day, because it sits next to a lake. Because of the hydroelectric plant, it needs plus water, extra water. So there's actually an artificial lake where people relax, people use motorboats, they fish. It's obvious that it's very much alive and in use. The other thing that stayed with me is actually just the whole atmosphere of Bratislava, that it's clean, that it's safe, that it's logical. The only thing I maybe didn't like is the train station because that's not in a very good shape.
And that's already a lot of things we mentioned that you can see or do in Bratislava. However, many itineraries treat the city as a one-day stop from Vienna or Budapest. How much time do you think makes sense to be there, and why?
The first time I went, I spent almost 4 full days going there, going around Bratislava and the Vin Castle. And if I would do it again, and if I only had the chance to go once to Bratislava, I would actually extend it to a 5 or a 6 day trip to be able to include Danubiana and also some more museums and some more locations, because time just goes very fast. And in Bratislava, not many locations, except for restaurants and bars and supermarkets, stay open later than 6. So you really need to get up early and then go and see these things. And if you don't want to have this crazy run and crazy rush and you really want to enjoy it, I think if I would be able to go back in time, I would stay 5 to 6 days, including going to Danubiana and going to Devon Castle. And maybe what I didn't have the opportunity to do is to go on a ship ride, for example. And I think it's also very good advice to go when it's less windy, because there's the UFO tower, and unfortunately, it's outside. If it's windy downstairs, it's going to be really windy upstairs. And I was hanging on to my camera with one hand and hanging on for my life on a pole at the other end, because it was that severely windy. So it's very important that if you want to go to a higher place, then you should also watch out for the weather. Otherwise, the weather is very similar to Budapest. And 5 6 days perfectly makes sense if you really want to enjoy the foods as well and enjoy the cafes, because they have actually exceptionally good cafes there.
Does it matter in which season do you go to the city?
I went once in the spring and once in the fall, and I was lucky with the weather both times. I think in the summer it would be more expensive and maybe it would be a little bit more crowded. When I went off season, it was October and March. There were no issues, there were no lines. So I would still prefer to go when it's just moderately good weather. It's obviously on a beach location. You don't need it to be 30, 40 degrees Celsius outside.
What kinds of travelers do you think might particularly appreciate Bratislava, and what should they know before going there?
I think slow travelers, travelers who want to really get to know the Slovak culture should go. Also, honey lovers, because there's a great shop there that has honey products, cosmetics, various types of honey, various useful souvenirs or kitchenware that is related to honey. I actually really like these kind of products. They're very useful. And also for those people who are foodies, who like to eat really good quality food, and nature lovers, because Slovakia has a very beautiful nature. And I think it would also be good for solo female travelers and also for families. Again, except for the train station, which is for some reason full of stairs. We also have train station like that. So maybe for families it would be better with a car, even though I'm not supposed to promote the cars unless it's electric, because we want to reduce our carbon footprint and train travel does reduce it. But basically, these are the groups I would recommend it for.
Speaking about sustainability and climate-friendly travel, looking at the city with your sustainability hat on, what did you notice about the city's size, walkability, public transport, or tourism?
Once inside Bratislava, so where you are more closely connected with the trams and the buses, you don't even always need those. You can actually walk. So as a tourist, you don't need a car, absolutely not. You sometimes need public transit if you go to places that are not immediately in the central of the town or in central Bratislava. Other than that, I think that from a sustainability perspective, having a city that has clean air and less noise pollution, less light pollution, probably less air pollution is great. And also, I very much support it as a sustainability expert that they built a hydroelectric plant and they built it in a way that they were actually able to involve the locals. In the 90s, Hungary didn't build its own hydroelectric plant, and there were, of course, valid environmental reasons to not to build it, because it was ecologically dangerous for that area. However, in the case of Bratislava, in the case of that hydroelectric plant next to Danubiana, it was managed wonderfully. It was integrated into sports, into leisure, and also into arts, because obviously they built an art museum and used an otherwise maybe forgotten island for something valuable.
You've already mentioned women traveling alone, that Bratislava is a great destination for them. As a woman yourself visiting Bratislava, how did you experience safety there? And are there any points you would raise for female listeners?
I think as long as you exercise caution the same way you would exercise in Budapest, which is also a very safe city, you should be fine. Generally, I don't think anything good happens after midnight. So I generally don't support people, either men or women, getting drunk at night. It's one thing to drink socially, and there's another to get drunk. And you obviously have to take care of your safety first. Other than that, I felt perfectly safe in Bratislava. And also, people speak English, so that's a huge help. So if you need to ask for directions or you need to ask for help, that's also possible. And I would rate it 9 out of 10 in terms of safety, and 10 being the best.
Thank you, Carolina, for this insightful discussion about Bratislava. I've never been there before, but
You should go.
now it's definitely on my list. Thank you for being here and telling us all these interesting facts and things about the city.
Thank you so much, Aggie, for interviewing me about my experiences.
That was it for today's episode. You've been listening to AK Compass, guiding listeners through evolving ideas, directions. I'm Agnes Gárdonyi.
And I'm Karolina Czakó. Subscribe, rate, review if you'd like to support us. Thank you for listening.